Good afternoon to you. Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com here. Time for the Hurricane Outlook and discussion. It is Wednesday, the 20th day of October, 2021. Hope your day is going well. We don't have a lot to talk about out there, of course. It seems that the Atlantic Basin has basically just shut down for the time being. And, of course, the big question we're all wondering, will that continue on through the end of the month and then get us through the month of November, stopping us one storm shy, one name shy, of using up all of the letters of the list again this year. 21 out of the 26 letters we do use. And we're just waiting on Wanda, sort of, I guess. So far, I don't see any changes coming anytime soon. But as they say, and as we say, and as I say often, maybe later on, we shall see. But at least for the next 48 and then 120 hours, nothing in the Atlantic Basin. That is a little bit different in the Pacific, where, again, it's just like running the play that gave us Pamela all over again here. We have an area of disturbed weather that looks like it's going to go on to develop and eventually become a named storm in the eastern Pacific, and that could impact our friends here in Mexico somewhere. Don't know exactly where yet. The models are still kind of split on that, but there's nothing there yet, as I can show you on the satellite animation this afternoon. I say there's nothing. There's a little bit of broad turning down here, but nothing that's a congealed center, no low pressure area just yet. So we'll wait and see how that pans out. But again, you folks down here in Mexico should be watching this. I know it's kind of late in the year and you just dealt with Pamela in one of the regions up here in west central Mexico, but still got another one to potentially watch here over the course of the next several days. There is a flare up in the northwest Caribbean Sea, but there's really no vorticity with it. No energy down at the surface. It's just some cloudiness and showers and thunderstorms. Gusty winds associated with that. Upper level winds are just a little bit too strong. In fact, you can even see in the northern Gulf here, they're screaming out of the west going across the tops of these thunderstorms. So nothing is organizing in the deep tropics. We've got a couple of tropical waves moving through here. Just a few impulses of energy. But again, there's just no impetus to get anything to come together. The upper level winds are just not favorable. We've generally got this big trough sitting in here, tropical upper tropospheric trough carved out with strong upper level winds. Divergent flow is not to be found. In other words, the air, instead of going like this, up and out very evenly, the air is coming together in the upper levels, converging and sinking for one thing, and it's also moving against the grain, so to speak. Any tropical waves that come through, the upper level winds are going in the opposing direction, and that's precluding anything from getting going. So we have a nice quiet October still in front of us for at least the time being. And you can see this reflected nicely on the Vorticity signature this afternoon. I showed you that there are clouds and showers and storms in the northwest Caribbean with only the slightest hint of energy there down at the surface. Vorticity in the atmosphere, as we call it, potential of any spin developing there is just so small, pretty close to zero here. If you just look at the scale, the green there is pretty close to nothing, no vorticity really. So it's quiet. All the energy is up here in the high latitudes, as I showed yesterday, and that's probably the way it's going to stay. There's the system in the eastern Pacific slowly getting its act together, but that's pretty much it. We can see that reflected nicely in the GFS today. This is the 12Z run at the 850 millibar level from today. And over the south, I'll just point out a few things. Big area of high pressure setting up shop again over the southeastern United States, and that's going to make it nice and toasty. I was over at my children's school, the elementary and middle school that is, helping out with lunch duty, and we go out for recess and whatnot. And it was warm out there, nice and toasty. The October sun still pretty strong, I guess. But, this is not the pattern for development. The high pressure is kind of far to the south, so that makes the overall pattern. The trade winds just kind of hauling butt through here, and the upper level winds going in the opposite direction. It's just not favorable for anything to get going. You can see that reflected in the model here as we go out the next several days. There's 24, 48, 72 right there, and you can see in the eastern Pacific, this should catch your eye. That's what we're looking to see. Does anything like that happen over here? And you already know the answer. It's no. It does not happen over the next several days. And the system that develops there goes potentially into southern Mexico by maybe day 4, it shows it pretty quick there on the GFS. A little piece of energy, just for, maybe a little bit of, I don't want to say excitement, like, you know what I mean. But look, there's a little piece there at 84 hours, something to watch potentially in the Southwest Caribbean, but that's about it. Going out in time to day 4, day 5, day 6, and day 7, and nothing really. Mid-latitude storm system way up here a week out. We'll see. Waters are warm enough up there, so who knows, maybe subtropical development. But again, that's 168 hours out. You just never know. I want to show you something kind of interesting, though, in the old, what if, since we don't have anything going on. Let's play a little bit of the GFS gone wild. And if you follow the GFS closely, you look at the different models each time they come out, just kind of seeing what's out there all the way out to day 16. There's nothing wrong with that. You folks are smart. You know that way out in time, it's all just chaos theory and random craziness, especially beyond 5, 6, 7 days. So that little caveat notwithstanding, let me show you what the 6Z GFS showed, just for fun, if you will. Again, we'll call this GFS gone wild. So 850 millibars, 6Z run this morning. That's 2 o'clock in the morning Eastern time that it was initialized. And the first week or so is pretty innocuous. No big deal, nothing crazy. But watch what happens as this just goes on out. This little system right here develops in the vicinity of the Northeast Caribbean. And watch what happens to this over time. It's pretty wild. It gets shoved to the southwest, goes through Aruba, Bonaire, Curacao as a significant hurricane. I laugh because it's not going to happen. It's just a computer simulation that is allowed to just run rampant, right? You understand the convective feedback processes go crazy, and it's off to the races. The GFS modeling something that's more than likely not going to take place. It's not impossible, but there's really no mechanism to get this to start there. You see it picks it up at about day 8 with some energy there in the Northeast Caribbean. But that is a wild run, you got to admit. And it's a darn good thing we do not live in the real world of GFS fantasy land, isn't it? Because if we did, there would be more hurricanes in more places. We couldn't even live at the coast. But in some alternate universe, Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao are going to get a significant hurricane in about 12 days. Not our universe, not our reality. I can almost assure you. All right? Just thought I'd show you that. It is interesting. In the East Pac, just again focusing on this feature right in here, a threat to Mexico potentially as it gets its act together and makes landfall inside of 4 days there potentially. And just to show you and give the opposing point of view, so to speak, this is what the Euro from last night was showing. This is the overnight run last night, and the Euro is generally well, let's see. This is today. Sorry, I'm still trying to catch up on things, right? This is today's run, 12Z run, and it's, not very strong with it, and it holds it offshore by 4 days out. So the jury is still out as to what will happen with this feature. You folks in Mexico, keep an eye on it, see what goes on with it. I'll help you. That's what we're here for, right? And again, I keep talking about this. This is good news to see for our friends out in the western U.S. A series of storms rolling in off the Pacific, mid-latitude storms, one after the other. That one coming up in about 5 days, late in the weekend into early next week. Look at those blues in there. Very heavy snow in the Sierra Nevada. Wet snow, heavy wet snow. Burn scar issues in some of these areas. If you live out there, you should be paying attention to that. And that's an interesting phenomenon, too. It's something I'm going to watch for later in the winter. I may want to go out there and maybe assist one of those emergency operations centers. You never know. Hey, look, I got all these remote cams. We could put them up around a burn scar, and we could see when this flash flooding might happen. That's a good use for these unmanned cameras if we're not going to put them out in hurricanes anytime soon. Maybe something out west with the potential for flooding in some of these burn scar areas. Just, something to think of down the road. And I will certainly be doing that. So these storms move on through, then it finally dries out again after that series of wet weather. Again, a good thing for the area They desperately need it. And it's for the greater good. It's good for everybody, believe me. Severe weather, just wanted to point this out a little bit. General risk to marginal risk of thunderstorms today. The tornado threat is virtually nothing, less than 2%. Less than 5% wind problems anywhere, and hail is just a small area. Northern Iowa, extreme west central Wisconsin, and southeast Minnesota. And it updated right in front of my eyes there. That's the dynamic web browser thing doing its thing, but still only 5%. So pretty much the odds favor it, not much in the way of tornadoes, wind, or hail for today. Tomorrow, front slides east, so there's a larger area of marginal opportunities for thunderstorms, whatever that means. And you can read about it in here. I'm not going to read it because that's your job. Yeah, I try to point this out to you. And you go read it. And it tells you all about what's happening in the different regions from West Texas, southern Oklahoma, and the Ohio and Tennessee valleys down through the southern Appalachians. You know, there are some thunderstorms out there still because of the warm pattern that we are in. So just be aware of that. And finally, as we get towards Friday, eastern North Carolina, small chance of thunderstorms on the general sense. Same thing for South Florida. And in parts of Oklahoma and extreme southeast Texas. And look, if you didn't look closely, you'd miss it. Like 5 miles of coastline from the land side to the beach, and then like 250 miles of coastline north-south of Oregon. Basically, the Oregon coast to about 5 miles inland at best on Friday, the chance of thunderstorms. So, generally speaking, considering where we were this time last year in the hurricane world, it's a lot different. But there is interesting weather going on, stuff to keep an eye on. And we'll see. I still believe with all that warm water in the Atlantic Basin that it's going to be very difficult to get out of the season with no more development. You relax those upper level winds just a little bit, give it a chance for a few days, and I think we will see something probably towards the end of the month. Didn't go into it much now, but there is a little bit of chatter in the long-range guidance. But again, that's like 10 days plus out. We'll deal with it as it comes. If it starts to show up more in the ensemble guidance, we'll talk about it. But for now, that's it. I'm done. Have a great rest of your Wednesday afternoon. As always, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. I'm Mark Sudduth for HurricaneTrack.com. I'll be back with more for you tomorrow.